I want to use this video as more of a call to action than anything else. I know that at this point, hearing one more thing about COVID-19 might literally drive people off the rails, but there's a reason that this is happening, and despite some beliefs, it has nothing to do with China's peculiar cuisine. We're in a very strange place in time right now, and there's no doubt that the way that we are collectively occupying this planet has accentuated our current events in probably more ways than we realize. So let's take a look at what's going on from a potentially different viewpoint. But first, I want to welcome you back to Chin Up Mindset, where we have one mission, and that is to encourage growth by setting different goals for ourselves and exploring different topics. So let's grow. So you know when something is said to you and it's something that you already know, but for some reason it just clicks in a completely different way. I had one of those moments when a friend was telling me how her father, who is a biologist, was explaining how humans are a virus to this planet. And although this may not be a new concept to all of us, I'm going to elaborate a little bit on it. So we'll start with the formal definition of a virus, which is a piece of code that is capable of copying itself and typically has a detrimental effect, such as corrupting the system or destroying data. So looking at what we're dealing with as far as this COVID-19 goes, is a virus that finds a host, which just so happens to be our lungs, and then it replicates and mutates, which makes it unpredictable and terrifying to said host. Now, let's take that knowledge and look at how we've transformed the Earth over time. This once extremely beautiful and thriving planet is now home to factories, factory farms, countless modes of transportation, which is ever evolving in order to accommodate the consistent influx of people. And then there's us, the virus that keeps replicating and mutating to the point where we can't be shaken. We are literally being faced with a mirror of the effects that we've had on this planet as a humanity. So how have we been able to so negatively impact the planet in such a short amount of time? In this video, we're going to dissect one subsect of a single industry to showcase how industrialized and dissociated we are from our land, our animals, and literally the air that we breathe. And I know that I'm going to be getting into a bit of a controversial topic here, so I'm just going to preface it by saying that this is in no way an argument on whether eating meat is good or bad. I personally don't care what your take on it is. I specifically chose this industry because it efficiently showcases how far we've come from being the collective entity that I truly believe we are meant to be. And I don't want to spend too much time going into detail on things, so I'm just going to list off some facts, and if I mention something that piques interest, let me know in the comments and I can go further into detail in another video. Okay, so here we go. To produce 1 pound of meat, it takes up to 10 pounds of grain, which is why in the US alone, 56 million acres of land is used to grow feed for animals, and that's just the feed. For comparison, 4 million acres are used to feed humans, which is kind of even more awful when you think about how many people don't have food. But on top of that, 90% of the Amazon that has been cleared since 1970 has actually been used for grazing livestock or to feed livestock. So producing 1 pound of meat requires a lot of grain, but it also requires a lot of water. About 2,400 gallons actually. And to put that into perspective, you could save more water by not showering for 6 months. But not only that, by us wiping out this land for grazing and feed, we're killing off plants whose root systems have an extremely important function of filtration. This has resulted in a huge issue with runoff waters that is majorly affecting our oceans. Maybe a certain somebody will see this and create a video going a little more in depth on that issue. So with all of this livestock comes a lot of gas. And what makes it so dangerous is that there's a ridiculous amount of animals that are all collectively emitting somewhere between 65 to 130 gallons of methane daily. And by weight, methane's global warming potential is over 20 times more potent than carbon. For the record, cows fart and burp. It just so happens that their belches are more gaseous due to the way that their food is digested. Therein, it's worse for the environment. Bodily functions aside, you also have all of the added carbon emissions due to the transportation and the running of the factories and the slaughterhouses and the freezers and etc, etc. So that brings us to the dissociation with other living things that is really highlighted by this industry. Need I say more? Honestly though, I'm not even going to get into this part. There's an abundance of material out there that shows the inhumane and torturous practices that we partake in order to get meat to our grocery stores. So if you aren't aware of that process, I do implore you to look into it, and maybe stop bashing other countries for their inhumane practices when we ourselves are definitely no angels when it comes to treating living things with respect. So just to reiterate, this has nothing to do with eating meat. It has everything to do with us owning up and realizing that we have all had a part to play in the detrimental impacts that our environment has suffered. You can take just about any industry and dissect it to expose a disgusting amount of death and destruction along its path. And then we wonder what we possibly could have done to avoid a global pandemic from breaking out. The answer is literally anything and everything. Where we are right now is a direct correlation to how we as a humanity have chosen to live our lives. There wasn't any other feasible outcome to this. And I don't mean to be all grim, but this is real. We are at a time right now where we have the capability to change how we live and work toward a more symbiotic relationship with our main life source, opposed to draining the life from our one source. So here's my proposition to initiate a more synergistic relationship with life. As individuals and consumers, the issues that we face are definitely not all on us, but we are a majority of that cycle. And with this video, I am in no way meaning to imply that we are overloaded with ill-intended people, but I am saying that we may have a good number of misinformed or perhaps uneducated people when it comes to the impact of our practices. So instead of pointing blame in a different direction and sticking to an us versus them mentality, let's take this opportunity to focus our energy towards educating. And how I suggest we go about this is that anybody who feels that this is our time to shine and this is our chance to flip focus from power and money to compassion and collectiveness, take a minute to educate on a topic that interests you. If you like animals, give different resources showing the benefits of more humane practices, or let us know how your yoga and meditation practice has impacted your life. Share the benefits of locally sourced produce and meats, or if your love is for the oceans, make a video teaching people of the impacts that we're having on them. The possibility for expansion is enormous right now, and I have no doubt that if we just vouch to put in the work, which in the beginning can literally be as simple as just spreading awareness, we will come out of this not only guaranteeing a healthy planet for future generations, but an all-around more harmonious existence with everything within our own lifetime. All I ask is that anything you post in hopes of elevating the world, use the hashtag BahoyLife so that we can compile a wealth of information and actions to take coming out of this. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and hearing what I feel to be an extremely imperative message. I hope that it was understood and can be passed along in order for us to make the changes that we need to see. So if you've enjoyed this content, please show me with a little thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications so that you don't miss any future content, especially if you are hanging on the edge of your seat to see how the unicycle challenge goes, which I am. But in all seriousness, this is a scary time, guys. We just need to keep optimistic that we can pull through with the lessons that we needed to learn in order to come out of it thriving, which I have no doubt that we can. Okay, so stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, keep nurturing that mind.